Good morning, Junior 4. Please open your main booklet on page 22 and let's start to explain lesson 4, which is called The Importance of Sunlight to Living Organisms. The sunlight is very important for all living organisms where the plant depend on the sunlight to make their own food by process called photosynthesis process by helping of the chloroplasts in the green leaves. And some animals depend on the plants in feeding. Some animals eat the plants, so some animals depend on the plants to eat. Number 3, after the death of the plants, the bacteria and fungi eat these dead animals and plants. So the bacteria and fungi feed on the dead animals and plants. So the living organisms are classified according to the way of feeding into 3 types. Number 1, producers. Number 2, consumers. And number 3, decomposers. Let's start with type number 1, producers. They are living organisms called autotrophic that can make their own food by photosynthesis process. Autotrophic means can make their own food by photosynthesis process, like green plants, green algae, and some types of bacteria. Green plants, green algae, and some types of bacteria. So what does it mean by photosynthesis process? It's a biological process that takes place in the green part of the plants. Takes place in the green parts because the green parts contain the chloroplasts to make its own food. So these plants or the green part of the plants absorb the sunlight and absorb the carbon dioxide gas from the air, and the roots absorb water and some minerals from the soil to make its own food and release the oxygen gas. So how do the plants make their own food? The green leaves absorb the sunlight. The plant leaves absorb the carbon dioxide gas from the air, and the plant roots absorb the water and some minerals from the soil to make its own food and release the oxygen gas. So focus. In the photosynthesis process, the carbon dioxide gas is used and the oxygen gas is produced. To test the presence of starch or to make sure that these green leaves make its own food, you should to use the iodine solution where the leaves turn it into blue. If you put a drop of iodine solution on the green leaves, these green leaves turn it into blue. So the green leaves make its own food. Type number 2, consumers. They are the living organisms that depend on the producers directly or indirectly to get their food. They don't depend on themselves to make their food due to the absence of the chloroplasts because they don't have the chloroplasts like the plants. Consumers are classified into 2 types. Consumers feed on producers like cow, sheep, chicken, and human, and consumers feed on consumer like lion or hawk or snake or wild animal, wild cat and tiger and human. Type number 3, the decomposers. Decomposers, they are the living organisms that get their food by decomposing the organic wastes as dead bodies, plant remains, and decayed food. They can't make their own food due to the absence of the chloroplasts. So the decomposers and the consumers, they don't have the chloroplasts. Example, like some types of bacteria as yogurt and some types of fungi as yeast fungus and bread mold fungus. This is the bread mold fungus. So finally, the importance of the decomposers, they help us to get rid of the bodies of dead organisms and the plant remains. Number 2, they increase the soil fertility, and number 3, they are used in a lot of industries like yogurt industry. Thank you for listening, Junior 4. You have homework worksheet number 8 and